Next time you see me, folks, this will all be off. Erasing history. Now, this subject today is probably the most controversial I'm going to get. Keir Starmer was asked yesterday, is Britain a Christian country? Now, I'm a historian, archaeologist, and actor. And obviously I've got my sheep and I'm an author. And I'm a journalist, so I've got to be very careful what I say. But Keir Starmer couldn't answer that question. He dodged it like a typical politician. Let's ask the question again. Is Britain a Christian country? He could have just said yes or no, but he didn't. Now, from my point of view, what we've seen, particularly from roughly the end of the First World War, and naturally people could be said to be losing their faith because of the disaster of the First World War, the pointlessness of the First World War, the total look at the only things going on was the politicians wanting this war. The generals couldn't solve it. The soldiers dying in their droves, in their millions in the First World War. And people had lost faith. The chapel movement in Cymru, Wales was probably at its height, probably late 1800s into the 1900s. We're still building fairly big churches and chapels, but the men who had gone to those chapels in 1914, tens of thousands of them were now dead by 1918. And with that, faith went. So slowly but surely, I've looked at this as a journalist in the Barron District News. I've looked at so many churches and chapels, over 40 in Barry alone. Many of them by the 1920s, 1930s were in big decline. And we're not just talking about the Welsh-speaking chapels in Barry, we're talking about all the chapels. So by the 1960s, we've got a vast reduction of people going to church and chapel, not just in Barry, Vale of Glamorgan, but throughout the whole of Cymru. So does that answer the question? Is Britain a Christian country or not? The answer is that I think we're going towards a country that's naturally atheist or naturally has lost faith. We're not talking about is it one faith or another faith or this faith or attacking whoever, right? It's the fact that people are turning away from God. That's it. And the cynicism of religion. And I'm not going to look at one or the other, right? But it's clear from some comments that I've made and people commenting on what I've said that do we look at religions that base their philosophy on thinking that is 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years old? And the answer is, if you've got faith, then you keep that faith. Personally, I believe that Jesus Christ existed. But do I believe in the Christian church? The answer's no. So am I a Christian? So if you look on my blurb, I say I'm a Christian actor, archaeologist, British or whatever. Yeah. But it's easier to say that than it is to say that I believe Jesus Christ existed. So there's two differences there. So back to the question, is Britain a Christian country? And I believe the answer is no. So what type of country have we got in Britain? What's the dominating religion? That's not for me to discuss. I'm looking at this from a historical and archaeological point of view. That's a political point of view. That's a theological point of view. But the evidence is quite striking that we've overall turned away from lots of religions in Britain, and even the sort of revival of Wiccanism, of the Wiccan faith, that sort of declined as well. It really has. I used to talk to lots of Wiccan groups and witchcraft groups and stuff in sort of 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, and then slowly that type of stuff sort of dried up, and I wouldn't be doing it anymore. In many ways, history and archaeology is something that is, archaeology proves the history, and not history proving the archaeology. But you can disrupt and distort the archaeology at the same time, which is not good. You can easily misinterpret the history. So one of the things I've been saying recently in my classes is that at Vindolanda, but more so when we're looking at Herculaneum and Julius Caesar's father-in-law's library at Herculaneum, which was lost under ash and pumice and pyroclastic flows on the day of the 24th of August AD 79. We've got this wonderful library, and we've got these charred scrolls. We've got papyrus scrolls, we've got these charred scrolls, various other scrolls, and we're slowly starting to use modern laser scanning and the bionic eye and x-rays to understand what those documents are talking about. The one problem is, what I see is that, say you've got a pseudo original work of Herodotus, this great writer in the 400 years BC, and say you've got sort of pseudo works, basically first-hand or just second-hand writings of Plato in that library, and then it sort of says, the exact location of where Plato's buried, which we now know because we've looked at those documents. Before that we didn't know. Say we've got another work of Plato. This is more familiar to all of us, not any of the other names, like maybe Livy or sort of Cassius and Tacitus. Well, obviously some of those writers wouldn't be in the library at Herculaneum at that stage, but I'm just giving you an idea. Or Pliny, that's a good example. The problem is, what we've got with their surviving works is that we've got copies of misinterpretation. So by the time you get to the works of Pliny, is it the original text? And the answer is no. So we go to the library and then we find the original text, and history changes, and interpretation of history changes. So what's that got to do with this? And don't forget to subscribe and like. If you join my channel, it'll be really, really good. If you join my channel, I can do more of these, keep the content going, and keep supporting, keep liking, press the bell. Please do that. So what's any of that got to do with, is Britain a Christian country? It's all about interpretation, and I say no, it's not. But the point is, cat's up there. The point is that we've got to be very careful of interpretation, and understanding today is going to be understood differently in the future. So if that's been of any use to anybody today, then just keep watching, right? So I'll try and do one more of these. I'll keep doing these videos every day if I can. If nobody's really watching them, then I won't bother, but we'll just keep going. So don't forget to subscribe and like. Thank you very much, and let's have your opinions. And if you want me to continue on with this vein, then I will. Thank you.